Good morning, I am Necie, and I am the founder of Fibro Patient Education and Support Organization. And our organization is geared towards people with chronic pain, including fibromyalgia. And I'm going to talk to you about several things today, and we're going to get started with our presentation. And we're going to have a lot of wonderful speakers today. Speakers will be here this afternoon. We also have a patient panel, and you're going to have a good time, and there's plenty of snacks. There will also be a hot lunch, so help yourself. So what you need to know about living with fibromyalgia. This is the look most people give you when you ask, do you know what fibromyalgia is? For those of you that have fibro, when you've told people that you have fibromyalgia, have they given you these strange looks like they don't know what it is that you're talking about? Okay. And this is the energy envelope. With the energy envelope, it dictates about your available energy level. You definitely want to stay out of the red zone where it says symptoms, fatigue, poor sleep, pain, brain fog, and so on. You get into that red zone when you overdo it. So when you think about starting out your day, you want to pace yourself. When you overdo it, you have what? Less energy, you have more difficulty sleeping, you have also more pain and fatigue. As we move on up the energy envelope, we have the expendable energy, and that is the energy you lose through physical, mental, and emotional exertion. So think about it. You get up in the morning, you start off on your day. Sometimes you have feelings of feeling overwhelmed. For those of you that's still working, think about you have a job you're going to. The job that you're going to may be one that is very stressful. You may have situations where you feel like when you get up in the morning that you can barely make it getting out of bed. What you don't want to do is expend too much energy. Pace yourself is what the energy envelope is all about. So with the expendable energy, think about the energy that you lose through physical, mental, and emotional exertion. I'm sure you've had times where you've made plans to go out with friends or family members, only to find out that I said I was going to go, but now I can't go, not because you don't want to go, it's because you don't feel well. You're tired. And sometimes you're going to encounter situations where people feel as if you are coping out on them, and you're not coping out at all. It's just a matter of you had every intention of going, only to find out, I'm not feeling well. Now I can't do it. The next is the available energy. So the available energy represents the energy you have to accomplish things. And that is why pacing is very important, because when you pace, you are breaking it up into small pieces in terms of what you can do. It's kind of like list building. You make a list of the things that you want to do and look at it like having spoons. So there, in fibromyalgia, they have something that they call the spoon theory. Is anyone familiar with that? Okay, so with the spoon theory, what it represents is the number of spoons you're given for tasks. So let's say you're going grocery shopping. You're going to start out with 7 spoons. So let's say you go grocery shopping. You get up, you get dressed, you get in your car, you go to the grocery store, you shop, you are tired, you're fatigued. That may have cost you 2 spoons or 3 spoons right there, depending upon how much exertion was spent at that time. Next, with that, so that leaves you, let's say, 5 spoons left. So with those remaining 5 spoons, if you have to get cooking done at home, prepare meals, that may cost you 1 or 2 more spoons, okay? That's only gonna leave you a few more spoons left in the day to do certain tasks. Once you've used up all those spoons, meaning once you've used up your energy level, there is not much left for you to do because you have run out of energy. There's nothing left you can do, but you're pooped out. All you can do next is just to sit down and try to relax and unwind. Okay, now these are the early symptoms and common mixed diagnosis of fibromyalgia. Okay, the fibro fog. Fibro fog, some of you may have experienced. If you haven't, let me tell you what that's like. I have family in Northwest Indiana, and I've making this trip to visit family members for many, many years. And on one occasion, I was in my car, was driving by myself. I made it there, fine, no problems. Coming home is where I ran into problems. I got lost. And what should have been an hour drive to get home took me 2.5 hours to get home because I got lost and I could not figure out where I was. Didn't know where I was. And it made me really nervous. It was very upsetting because I was lost. All I remember was I looked up and the area in which I was in was dark. You know how you look for signs to try to find your bearings to figure out where you are? I didn't know where I was. And I did not have my GPS at the time, but then I found it later. It was under the car. And again, that's an example of fibro fog. You totally forget. And to be honest with you, I really thought that this was, for me, maybe Alzheimer's or dementia, because it made me really nervous that I got lost. And how could I get lost? Because I know where I'm going. This is where I used to live. This is where I grew up. So how can I get lost? And I went to the doctor. And when I discussed it with him and said, you know, I'm really nervous and really afraid because I got lost, he says, that happens with fibromyalgia. It's called fibro fog. Doctors sometimes don't like to use that term, fibro fog. They'll simply tell you it's your memory. For those of you, if anyone is in the room that has filed for Social Security disability, your attorneys will even tell you don't use that term fibro fog. What they want you to do is to keep track of your daily comings and your goings. So for example, when you went to the doctor on this day, what time? How are you feeling each day? They do not want you to use that term because they feel that term is very ambiguous, and they just want you to be clear just to simply say, I forgot or I don't remember. Next, we have depression and anxiety. Chronic pain will cause you to be depressed. It will cause anxiety because when you get depressed, that comes also from chronic pain. Think about when you're in so much pain, you can barely function. You just feel like you just can't get ahead. And you're just doing the best you can, and it seems like no matter what you do, it's never enough. And you just get frustrated, and it seems like nobody seems to understand what you're dealing with but you. Next, numbness or tingling in the limbs. Sometimes in the middle of the night or during the daytime, you're gonna have moments where you're just cold all the time. You're gonna get the sense of tingling up and down your arms or your legs. Morning stiffness. I think many people can relate to that morning stiffness with fibromyalgia. When I wake up in the morning, I feel like a truck has run over me. My legs feel like I'm walking in quicksand, and it just hurts so bad to get out of bed. And how many times have you heard people tell you, well, all you gotta do is just get up and just move around and start walking and shake it off. It doesn't work like that. I've had times where I've gotten up in the morning, laid back down again, gotten up again to lay back down again, to get up again and move slowly. Next, the time of day. So the time of day, symptoms vary widely depending upon the time of day. Also weather conditions. You can be your own weather forecaster when you have fibro. Your body will let you know when it's going to rain, when there's going to be temperature changes. You feel it in your tissues. It's also going to let you know during times of high stress. You feel all of that. The tension, the depression, inactivity, and not to mention, ladies, hormone fluctuations. We experience all of that. Next, sleep disorders. So sleep is a big issue for people with this syndrome. Because sometimes with sleep, it can be sleep apnea. It could be your just inability to get a restful night's sleep. It can be due to the medications that they prescribe. They will prescribe a lot of meds. And with those meds, it prevents you, that's one of the side effects of getting an enjoyable night's sleep. Next, we have migraines. A lot of people suffer from migraines, and that can be also debilitating. Jaw and facial tenderness, fatigue, and irritable bowel syndrome. I know it's early in the morning, but when it comes down to IBS, a lot of times it depends upon how our central nervous system becomes very overactive. Also, too, we have to watch what we eat. That's why when lunchtime comes, one of the items that we're going to have is gluten-free pastries, because some people with their GI, is certain things that they cannot eat. And then common misdiagnosis. So there is no direct test to diagnose fibromyalgia, but they do have now a blood test. The blood test is done just to tell you if you have it or not. The blood test is very expensive. The blood test costs about $600 to $700. And I don't know about you, that's a lot of money to spend for a blood test just to simply tell me I have fibro, when that's money I can be spending on other things, medical bills, co-pays, whatever you need to function, holistic medications or whatever, holistic treatments, whether it's massages, essential oils, whatever. Okay, so pain doesn't just show up in your life for no reason. It's a sign that something in your life needs to change. And this is where my story begins. I used to work, like many of you all, in the industry that I worked in was the pharmaceutical industry. And I worked in that industry for a number of years. And I made a very, very nice living in that industry. But guess what? It was toxic on my health. Very, very toxic. And I paid a price for the salary that I earned. People say, oh, you made a lot of good money. Yes, but guess how I spent it? I spent it on medical doctors. I spent it on hospitalizations. I spent it on going to the ER. I spent it on so many things that when it comes to my health, that when it was said and done, guess what? The money, it was nice to have, but I paid the cost for it. And I say this is where my story begins, because pain doesn't just show up in your life for nothing. With my story, I was living with let me back up. I was living with chronic pain for about 2.5 to 3 years before I was ever diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I even had a total hysterectomy. And after the surgery, guess what? I still had chronic pain. The doctor couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. In fact, I'll never forget, she said to me, I don't know what to tell you. It just must be you, because we did our job. I can't tell you why you're having pain. I went to 6 and 7 more doctors because I was still having a lot of pain. And they said, again, I don't know what to tell you. We can't find anything wrong with you. We've run all the necessary diagnostic tests and we can't find anything. Maybe you're just stressed out. Maybe it's just hormonal. Maybe you're not getting enough sleep. Or you know what? It's gonna be okay. Just don't think about it. Well, it's not that I spend every waking moment trying to intentionally thinking about living with pain. When you have a lot of pain, it's not something that you try to focus on. It is just there. It is a reminder. It lets you know, hey, I'm here and I'm not going away. So what pain did for me is this. It showed up in my life because I was working in a toxic work environment. I was supervising a call center, had a staff of 11 people. And excuse me for saying this, that was the job, one of the jobs from hell. Never want to go back to that experience again. In my day-to-day job responsibilities, my day started at 9:30 in the morning, sometimes 9. And I would work up until 7 p.m. And I would leave work, go home, get dinner on the table for my husband and I, and then I would work again on my work laptop up until 1 a.m., sometimes 2 a.m. in the morning. And I could never get current on my work because I had so much pain. So much pain, it's hard to focus. So when you have so much pain and it's hard to focus, you find yourself working much longer hours to try to compensate for the amount of time it has taken you to try to get the job done. You're trying to make up for time because you don't feel good. And this went on for 2.5 years, but during that time period, I experienced bullying. And people think bullying is just geared towards children. Yes, children do get bullied, but I was bullied also for 2.5 years. It wasn't the type of bullying where someone is gonna get in your face, you know, like they're gonna hit you or something like that. It was very, very sinister. It was the situation where they would interfere with my staff. They would sabotage my work. And I used to always try to figure out, how is it that everyone else seems to know what's going on and they can seem to keep up, but me? How is it I'm always falling behind and can't seem to get my work done, but everybody else can get their work done? And it used to bother me because I was trying to figure out what is happening to me. I'm smart, I'm educated, I should not be having all these issues. And some of you may feel the same way, but guess what I didn't know? The people that were bullying me, they were helping one another get their work done. So if one was running behind, the other would pick up the slack and do the work for them. There was no one there to help me out to do my work. And then they would have secret meetings where they would decide how the department should be run. I was never invited to those meetings. So it always made it look as if I never was on the same page, if you know what I mean, with everybody else. Everyone else seemed to know what to do or what the process and the procedures are. Not me, because I was never privy to those conversations. And one day we had an off-site meeting for management, and I went to this meeting, and our general manager stated, you know, sometimes you can be in a job that's not a good fit for you. And he was talking to the group collectively. And keep in mind, at that time, I didn't know that I had fibromyalgia. I just knew that I wasn't feeling well, and I had a lot of pain. And sometimes when you have pain, if you listen to your body, it will let you know when you need to slow down. It will let you know that pretty soon it's gonna sit you down if you don't get the help that you need. Well, at this meeting, he says, sometimes you can be in a job that's not a good fit for you. And if that's you, we're here for you. Let us know how you feel. We'll help you. I thought he was sincere. After the meeting, I went up to him and said, what you said resonated with me, and I'm thankful to be employed, but I'm not feeling well. I haven't been feeling well for a while. I'm having some health issues, so I would like to transition another position with the company. And he looked at me as if to say, why are you coming to me, talking to me about this? And this is how he helped me. He helped me really well by reporting me to human resources to make it seem that I was incapable of doing my job. In fact, his exact words were when we met was, and I'll never forget it, was, you know what? You seem to be having a hard time here. So this is what we're gonna do. We want you to give up your supervisory position and report to the other supervisors. Now, why would I do that? Because the other supervisors, my peers, were the ones that was bullying me. So how is that gonna help me, right? So now you're gonna want me to give up my position to report into people who have been sabotaging my work, and now you want me to report into them? I says, no, I'm not giving up my position. No, there has to be another way. He says, no. He reported me to HR, and they had a meeting with me and said, this is the option. And I'm a woman of faith, and God is good, because I'm gonna tell you what happened for me. Right after he said that, a month later, I went to him again and I said, I'm asking you one more time, can you help me find another job within the company? He says, no. If I do it for you, I have to do it for everyone else. But they've done it for everyone else. This I knew. Well, what happened was, about 3 to 4 weeks later, I went to work, I could not breathe, had difficulty, I had really bad chest pains. They called paramedics. I walked over to, actually my coworker, one of my coworkers, I remember now, drove me over to occupational health. And when she drove me over to occupational health, they called paramedics. And this was the second time in 6 months that paramedics had came to transport me to the emergency room because I couldn't breathe. I had this chest tightness. And this last trip, unbeknownst to me, they thought that I was having a heart attack. And see, stress will do all that to you. It will wreak havoc on your body, and it would manifest itself in different areas and diseases. And when I got to the ER room, because it was the same hospital that I had been 6 months prior, they admitted me for observation, and the ER doctor, when they got me stabilized, he came to my room and he said, "You seem like a very nice lady, but I'm gonna tell you this. I've seen too many people from your place of employment in here, and they're all stressed out. But guess what? Next time you won't be so lucky, because next time you may not make it here. You may have a massive heart attack, and you need to make some changes." That's why I like the slide when it says pain doesn't just show up in your life for no reason. It's a sign that something in your life needs to change. I knew that something needed to change, but think about it. When you're working a job and you're making a nice income, sometimes it's not so easy just to step away. You know, you're looking for something else, but sometimes we get caught up in other things, whether it's our health care benefits, whether it's our profit sharing. I mean, you name it, whatever, different strokes for different folks, right? Well, he says, okay, you need to be off work for a while. And at that time, I spoke with a friend of mine who's here today, Jennifer, raise your hand. And Jennifer said, "Have you seen another doctor? Perhaps you need to do so." And she referred me to a doctor that she knew. And it was that doctor that diagnosed me with fibromyalgia. He was very nice, he was very kind. He's since relocated, and I started seeing another associate doctor in his practice. And I had a lot of anger because being in chronic pain for over 2.5 years, being bullied, and it seemed like nobody could help me, nobody wanted to help me, besides Jennifer, who understood. I had no one else who had been there, done that, you know, who can really take me by the hand and say, this is what you need to know about chronic pain, this is what you need to know about fibromyalgia, this is how you manage. I didn't have that support system. And now you see on television all these commercials talking about Cymbalta, Lyrica, and all these other drugs for fibromyalgia. Well, prior to that, I felt so alone and very depressed because I just couldn't function with this pain. It was just unbearable. Now, chronic pain is a major public health problem, and is a leading condition for which complementary practices are used. And that's why we have the exhibitors that we have here today. Jiu-Jitsu. Also, we have someone here for massages, Young Living. We have Miss Jessica Ford here today, who's a therapist who's going to talk to us. I mean, we have Evolve, all the other different vendors that are here. They were selected for a reason, because what they focus on is chronic pain and also holistic treatments. And if you notice in the news lately, you've been hearing a lot about chronic pain because of the epidemic when it comes down to opioid abuse. But what they don't tell you, some of the doctors, is that, and I'm not knocking doctors, I'm just speaking from experience, what they don't tell you is that we're going to give you all this, but if you're not careful, you're going to have a drug problem later. Then that's a whole nother issue. So these are 10 ways to support a loved one with a chronic or invisible illness. Number 1, be patient. Please, I can't stress that enough, underscore that, be patient, because people will look at you and say, well, you don't look like you have pain. You can't go by how somebody looks, okay? You can look fine, but you still can be in a lot of pain. Be supportive, be gentle, be understanding, be a good listener, be available with open ears. When someone has chronic pain come to you, they're not looking for you to fix their problem as much as they're looking for you just to show some support. Be kind, be loving, be there, and believe them. Because I've had doctors who told me there was nothing wrong with me when there was something wrong with me. I had family members who tell me, oh, you know what, it's probably something you ate last night that disagreed with you. Well, if that was the case, I must have been eating the same thing every night for over 2.5 years, because that wasn't it. And then take your vitamin L. That means love yourself daily. I've met a lot of women and men, due to the changes in their lives for chronic pain, stop loving themselves because they feel that, okay, now that I'm living with this, who's gonna want me? If you're not married or you're looking for a relationship, sometimes there's a problem when you feel like there's no one that's gonna understand what you're dealing with. You're not gonna have that support that you need in relationships. So you have to love yourself daily no matter what. And most importantly, believe in yourself. It does not matter what others think about you. What really matters is what you think about yourself. I can't control what you think about me. I can only control what I think about me. And some people are gonna always say things no matter what, irregardless of feelings. You know, they have no filter. Some people just don't care. So you have to take care of you and believe in yourself. And then there's power of the words. Words do the following. They will build you up. They will tear you down by killing your spirit. They will steal your joy, and they will destroy you from the inside out. When I was on the job and I told you about the bullying, some of the things that they would say to me was tearing me up from the inside out. And it caused a lot of anger. Words, they can build you up. When someone says to you, you know what, I got your back, I'm in your corner. That's making you feel good. You know that you're not alone, versus somebody saying, you know what, I don't know what's wrong with you, but I'm just not gonna be bothered with you. You know, you're crazy, there's something going on with you, or you're good for nothing. They will steal your joy and they destroy you from the inside out. And so I'm a firm believer of affirmations, and I do this daily. I respect myself, I deserve to be loved. I believe in myself, and I'm a valuable person. That's important to me because when I was on the job and they made it seem like I could not function, I had to believe in my abilities no matter what, because people will try to marginalize you, undervalue you, and underestimate you if you let them. And visualize your future. This is very important because visualize the life you would like to create. Develop a plan. What do you see? How does it make you feel? And I say that because when you have chronic pain, things change in your life. So since things change in your life, you have to focus on, what am I going to do now? It may mean starting your own business. It may mean finding another job, whatever it may mean for you. And it may slow you down, but it doesn't have to stop you. And so I thank you for coming today. We have lots more that we're gonna be talking about, and I see that our next speaker is here. Okay, I'm gonna introduce our next speaker, who's actually our keynote speaker, Jessica Ford. Jessica is a licensed clinical social worker and certified sex therapist with an office in Oak Creek, Wisconsin, providing psychotherapy services to individuals and couples who experience a variety of challenges in their relationships and issues with sexual dysfunctions. She holds a master's degree in cultural anthropology from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, a master's degree in clinical social work, family systems from the University of Chicago, and completed extensive postgraduate training in sex therapy and marriage family therapy. Her subspecialties include the treatment of PTSD, sexual trauma, traumatic brain injury, and chronic pain. And she teaches the mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR, an 8-week course several times a year. So welcome, Jessica. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank Necie for inviting me, and I think we should give her a round of applause for her efforts. This was a big task that she undertook, and she's done a great job. I'm going to just kind of familiarize myself here with the tools, and we've already covered some of this. And my experience actually came out of years ago. I was a cooperative extension agent in Manitowoc as a community development educator, and did a lot of work in the community around health issues. And so I became familiar with what was happening with health issues on certainly what I call a macro level, and then decided to go back and get my master's in social work so I could practice more on the micro level. I have been a psychotherapist. My training includes being a relationship therapist, as Necie mentioned, a sex therapist, and I also have become involved with traumatic brain injury over the years, and also looking at just trauma and how trauma spills out into our lives. And that actually brought me into contact with clients who routinely would have physical pain and chronic pain. So it kind of spearheaded in my education and in that training process. From that, I decided to go back